In this video, we are going to discuss how you can start a staffing agency by first focusing on finding your niche. Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Natasha, the business recruiter. Welcome back to my channel. So when it comes to you starting your staffing in or recruiting agency, one of the first things that you want to determine right off of the bat is where you're going to focus your time. And part of focusing your time is really going to be you determining what is your niche, what's your specialty, where are you really going to be able to add value. And I get this question a lot, not only from those within the industry, but ultimately those who are also going through my program, the Recruiting Agency Accelerator program, in terms of how do you actually go about determining what your niche is. Well, I'm here to tell you that there's not necessarily a secret sauce that's associated with this, because in the very beginning, you want to make sure that you're able to stay as broad as possible. However, when you are thinking about finally getting to that point where it makes sense for you to niche down and you want to start to think about what that is, I do have a couple tips or a couple things that I think may be helpful for you in terms of thinking through how do you ultimately get to the point of determining the most successful niche for yourself. The first question that you want to ask yourself is, where does your area of expertise lie? Maybe you've worked within the transportation or retail industry before. Maybe that's where your career is. Maybe that's where your degree is. Maybe that's where your just overall experience is. If it is, then that's great, because ultimately you have some working knowledge in regards to what it takes to be successful within that particular niche or area. Now, that may not mean that you know every single role that's associated with that particular industry, but if you worked in transportation, for example, maybe there's a segment within transportation that you're really familiar with. If that's the case, then ideally that's where you could focus in terms of your niche. Or let's say on the other side, retail, for example. Maybe again, you haven't worked every single role that's associated with the retail industry, but maybe you have some working knowledge in regards to those who are on the hourly side. So those working within a store and are considered to be maybe assistant store managers or customer service associates, or even loss prevention. Maybe you have some experience in regards to those roles. Understand that you can leverage that experience to then recruit for those roles through your recruiting agency or your staffing agency. Now, again, this isn't necessarily a secret. It's just leveraging your resources and leveraging your expertise in terms of where it is that you can ultimately add the most value. Now, the other thing that you want to take into consideration when you're thinking about a niche is also where the demand is in terms of monetary. How much revenue can you actually make? You may be able to make more recruiting for the, let's say, logistics or transportation industry than you would within retail. Or maybe you could make more recruiting within the technology or even AI space than you could retail or transportation or logistics. Again, money doesn't necessarily have to dictate everything, but it is something that you do want to take into consideration as you think about what is going to be your niche and where do you want to focus your time. Of course, your time is going to be the most valuable thing of all, so you want to make sure that you're getting compensated for that work that you're putting in. And if the work that you're putting in is within an industry or a niche that doesn't necessarily yield a big paycheck, then that's something that you may want to consider. Maybe that means that if that's an area of passion for you, that you still do that niche, but maybe there's a couple other niches that you also want to have. I know that that advice can feel sort of contradictory in that, like, at that point, are you really specialized if you're focusing on a couple of different things? But ultimately, at least you're still not operating within that space of being a generalist and focusing on everything. Now, the other thing that I mentioned, and you probably caught on to it, was area of passion. Maybe you don't have any working knowledge within a particular area, industry, whatever it is, but you've ultimately decided that you really have a passion for a particular sector. Maybe it's tech because you enjoy all of the innovation that's associated with that particular industry. Or maybe it's retail because you're really gravitating towards what that customer experience is like and you want to be a part of that in some way, shape, or form. Whatever that looks like for you, understand that your passion can also be an area that you focus on in regards to your niche. It will mean that there might be a bit of a learning curve, meaning that you might have to take some time to really take a step back and learn the inner workings of that particular industry before you can turn it into a niche, because ultimately you might be in a situation where you don't have any working knowledge, but don't let that stop you. Do not let the learning curve stop you in regards to saying that that's where you want to focus. Just understand that it might take you a little bit more time. Now, if you've enjoyed this video so far, then be sure to go down below and hit that subscribe button as well as that bell so that you can get notified of all of my videos that do drop weekly. Now, to wrap up this video, I am here to tell you that there is no right or wrong way for you to go about determining what your niche is. There's a couple of different things that you want to take into consideration, and ultimately a few things that you want to make sure that you keep top of mind in regards to determining what it is. And understand that you're not married to a niche. So for whatever reason, if you try one out and it doesn't work out, understand that you can 100% switch to try out a different niche. You want to make sure that you use the beginning stages of you starting your recruiting or staffing agency as that experimentation phase. You want to try out as many different niches as possible before you get to the point of actually specializing. But ultimately, thinking about it from the very beginning allows you the opportunity to really think through not only your short-term success with your recruiting agency, but also your long-term. I hope that you found this video to be helpful. If you did, then be sure to give me a thumbs up. And if you're not a part of the TBR community, then I highly encourage that you do that. What are you waiting for? I'll be sure to leave that link down below in the description box. That way you can join because we are still in there talking all things recruiting. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.